Oh, we on? Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I'm your host, Glenn Pooh Harding. And tonight, we have a very special guest. This basketball head is a Freeport High School standout. And according to him, he was not great, but he was damn good. Any man that can tell you the truth like that, you already know you're dealing with a real one. This basketball head attended basketball camp in Syracuse with my guy, William E. Grady, great Pat Alphonse. So you already know he got game, like the movie. After graduating from Freeport High School, he attended Morehouse College in Atlanta. Morehouse men, stand up. He became a business owner and now the CEO and host of one of the hottest shows on Instagram called The Gentleman's Corner, which featured some great men talking about health, wealth, and other topics concerning men, so you definitely got to check that out. So, without further ado, help me welcome to the show, Freeport High School standout, Morehouse College graduate, and the host of The Gentleman's Corner, John Copeland Jr.
Y'all ready? Yes. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos, where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
What's happening, man?
My man, what's up?
Good. Listen, man, I feel at home now, man. I love your background and your scenery, brother.
I had to do it for you, bro. You know, I had to put it up for you.
Definitely, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
How's Arizona treating you?
Everything is good, man. I can't complain. It's a little slower pace, but it's cool. Weather's good. So I ain't gonna complain, man. I'm not missing those brick winters.
Oh, man. Let me tell you. I don't know what the weather's gonna call for, because one day it's like 40, then the next day it's like 60. It feel like 65. Today 2 days ago I had my big coat on. Today I had my hoodie on.
See? Yeah, I'm good with that.
Listen, brother, that sun is good for our melanin. Get that vitamin D, all up in you, and get your mind right.
There you go.
No doubt. So, what I like to ask everyone who come on the show is, who introduced you to the game?
Man, who actually, you know what? My older cousin actually introduced me to the game. He was about 3 years older than me, and he was a baller. Like, he was a really good ball player, and I used to follow him around to the parks. And so,
give your cousin some love. What's your cousin name?
My cousin's name is Eugene Fuller.
Okay.
Yeah, he was he was an all-state point guard in high school and all that. So he introduced me to the game, and I fell in love with it. And I used to, like I said, I followed him, and he used to actually ball with Dr. J's nephew Barry, who's like my big brother. And they used to just take me around, and I would follow him from park to park. And, that's how I got started. That's where I learned how to play.
That's crazy, because is Barry Dr. J's assistant now?
Yes.
Okay. So, my guy Rick Combs then.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. See? There you go.
Uh-oh. All right.
Oh, I got my phone charged. Hold up.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Mm-hmm.
Seemed like my battery was going dead. Oh, okay, I get it. There you go. We good.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So, I know Rick and Barry used to live together, right?
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Rick has been a big contributor for the show. He actually received one of these Game Over trophies for all the assistance he have done for me on the
Okay.
show, because Rick was a guy who started out in Brooklyn, then moved
Right.
to Long Island. He was
Right.
actually, we were supposed to be on the same team, but as I was coming in, he was going out to Long Island.
Okay. Yeah, Rick, yeah, I know Rick. Like I said, Barry's, and even now, Barry's like my big brother. His brother Keith and I, we went to school together. We were in the same age group, so we balled together. So, you know, like I said, that world, especially back then in NYC, was so small. Like, we all know somebody that knows somebody.
6 degrees of separation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, you was telling me earlier how you went to camp with my guy Pat Alphonse.
Yeah, Pat. Listen, man, Pat is my dude. Like, I met, and this was what was so funny. I met Pat. I was going up to a Syracuse basketball camp, and we stopped in the Bronx to pick up some dudes. And I met Pat on the bus, and we just kind of kicked it. And we got up there, and like right before we got up there, he was like, "Yo, I heard this dude, Derek Coleman, gonna be up here." He was like, "Yo, you know, we know who he is, and we know what he can do. You know, we read the magazines and stuff, but
right.
when we gonna get our little team together and we gonna get him to business." Now, I didn't know Pat from Adam, but I was like, "Yo, I'm with it. You know, if this is what you want to do, let's do it." And we did. Like, we went up there, and Derek had his whole crew, like his whole Northwestern crew.
Right.
And I ain't gonna lie, they had a squad. Like, them cats was deep, but Pat was like, "Yo, let's go." And we balled out. We balled out for a week. And even to this day, we talk to DC about it and we laugh because we had some really, really good times. But yeah, Pat's my dude. And it was so funny because Pat knows a lot of people that I grew up with. Like, he was at a golf tournament over the summertime, and he's hanging out with a dude that I grew up with. I've known this kid since we was kids. And I'm like, "How you know him?" He's like, "Man, I know Big Pat from, you know, from way back." So we all are connected, you know, especially coming from that area. We're all connected somehow. And it's crazy, especially as we get older. You know, we lost touch with certain people. And then you talk to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, man, yo, I know so-and-so and this, that, and the other." And, and this is where we at. Because, like, Pat was the one that turned me on to you. He was like, "Yo, you got to check out my man's show. You know, go through, you know, it's cool. He talks about old school, all this stuff." So I was like, "Cool." So I popped in, and I was like, "Yo, this is actually pretty cool." And then me and you started chit-chatting, and then you started coming to the Gentleman's Corner, and that's why I was like, "Yo, yeah, I'll definitely come through."
Yeah. Pat's school and my school was right across the street from each other. He went to Grady, I went to Lincoln. So we grew up battling, right?
Right,
and
right.
then come to summer leagues, we still playing against each other. I don't think me and Pat have ever played with each other. We've always battled, right?
Right.
So that's how our connection got tighter, man. So
yeah, it's
Pat Alphonse.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, yes. And he was definitely the guy in the 90s when we all came home from school who had the plug to all the clubs. So
yes,
we
bro,
just walk right in.
That was the plug.
There you go. Yeah. Facts. So when did you start to take the game serious?
I'll probably say I started to take the game seriously probably around going into junior high school. You know, I fooled around with it, you know, when I was younger, but I think I started to, around junior high, I started to take it a little bit more seriously. And really it was because my cousin saw something in me and he recommended that I started going to basketball camps. And so I went to my first basketball camp. I think it was between the year of the 7th and the 8th grade. So that just kind of fueled me to want to get better because there were guys there that were better than me. And I was new to the game. So I was just trying to figure it out. And so I was like, after going to a couple of camps, I was like, okay, you know, yeah, I like this. Like, this is my thing, but I need to get better. So I worked, you know, and the advantage of having him and Barry and some of those other guys in my neighborhood is that I played against them, even though they were a couple of years older, and that made me better. So I didn't really like playing. I didn't mind playing with kids my age, but I preferred playing with the older kids. So that's when I really started to take it seriously, and being able to hold my own against them made me realize, okay, I can play a little bit. I got a little something. So that was the start.
Yeah, I think that was like a rite of passage for guys that came up in our era, right? We didn't have trainers. We didn't have no one to go work out with. The guys, the older guys in the neighborhood was the guy that was the measuring stick, right? Because if you didn't get picked, you just sat and watched. So you had to work the way to get on the court.
Exactly.
Right? Then the next part was working your way to stay on the court.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But see,
so it was always level.
It was always levels to it. And that was the whole thing. Your first thing was getting on the court because you had to prove to everybody you could play. So once you proved that they could play, when you was like, okay, so I got next. So your next thing, once you figured out you can play, was you had to learn how to put your team together. If you had a whole bunch of dudes that was gunning and wasn't playing no D, you was gonna be off the court. It's a wrap. So when I used to pick my crew, I was a point. So I had to make sure I had a shooter, I had a rebounder, I had defenders. It was a team. So it might not have been the flashiest and most talented team, but we won because we played as a team. Everybody knew their role and they did what they had to do. That's how you stayed on the court because we know, listen, you get off that court, there's a good chance you might not get back on till the next day.
You might not ever come back, or you're about to go home, get something to eat, and come back.
Exactly. So that I learned that early. Like I learned that very early that this is a team thing. So yeah, it's cool to have a whole bunch of people out there that can score and do this. But if you're not playing no D, then you're not helping us out. So I need to put a team together.
And saying that, there was this guy from my neighborhood named Al. I don't remember Al's last name. He was a little bit older than me. But I would wait for Al to come home from church. Al was the guy who would come home from church, play in his church pants, take his sneakers off, take his shoes off, and play in his church socks, but tie his sneakers up real tight. And that was our hustler.
Right.
I would make sure that I would stick around long enough so I get out of my team. Because nobody wanted to dive on the floor. Nobody wanted to do the dirty work.
No, exactly. And you have to, even on street ball, you had to have that one dude that wanted to get grimy. That was going to bang. He's going to grab rebounds. He's going to block shots. He ain't worried about scoring. He like, look, I'm just out here to do my thing. And once you figure that out and you think, because I had a dude like that, this dude, Keith Kendrick, that was my guy. So it was like when Keith came to the park, I was like, okay, my guy's here. So I can add after this, but my dude is here. So you figure it out. And like I said, it was a rite of passage because there were levels to it. It was like, look, you had to get on the court first. And then once you got on the court, then you had to figure out, okay, how the team dynamic things work. So it helped in life. Like it helped us figure things out. As we've gotten older, we still can use those same concepts to things that we do now.
Yes, definitely. Do you remember your first game that you played in with referees? Like, what was that first game like? Like, I like to go there because, as ball player, you understand where I'm coming from with this question.
Yeah. My first game with referees, I'll never forget it. I was playing in a recreation league, and I was probably I must have been about 12. And the whole concept changed because there's referees and there's people watching and all of this stuff. And I won't sit here and lie. I was scared as hell. Like, I was nervous as hell. Like,
yo, let me tell you, you're one of the few people who say that. A lot of guys, I know that, except my guy Hassan Ducombe, rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan scored 30 points in his first game, so he was just a freak of nature.
Right.
But, come on, that first game, the referees, there's so much going on. You think you're overthinking. You do.
Yeah. And now you in a gym, so you're not in the park. Like, all of this stuff, and you're like, wait a minute. Like, yo, this is new. And even though the court is regular size, it looks so much bigger because it threw everything off. And so I was nervous as hell my first game. I think the first game I ever played, I think I scored like 2 points. I must have missed like 10 layups. Like, I could not get myself together. Like, that's how nervous I was. And I knew I could play, and other people knew I could play, but just that setting, and it was a new setting for me. I wasn't ready for it. Like, I was just like, man, like, okay, this ain't like playing in the park with my friends. This is a whole different thing.
Right. It's a whole different animal.
Absolutely.
And all. Who was the best player in Freeport coming up that everybody wanted to be like?
Wow. I think when I was coming up, I think that my cousin played with a guy, and he was actually his backcourt partner. And this dude, Anthony Jones, and we used to call him Jonesy. And Jonesy was probably about 6'2", 6'3", but his jump shot was like butter. Like it was like, and it was funny because he's like to shoot the jump shot, and he would kick his legs, and it was like this weird. It was weird. Like he was the only person that could do it. Like we used to try to imitate it as kids, and he was the only. That was just a natural thing for him.
Right,
but
right.
It was so smooth and so consistent that it was just like, yo, like it was like when Jonesy played, even when he played in the park, he was that guy. Like everybody wanted to be like his younger guys coming up. We wanted to be able to play like Jonesy. We wanted to be able to shoot like Jonesy. That was our thing back then. And, I think for me, like me looking up, he was that guy. There was another guy that came behind him that's a little younger than I am, and he's like my little brother, named Eric Coates. And Eric was, and it was funny because when Eric was a kid, we used to beat up on Eric on the court because he was tall and he was gangly, and he wasn't, coordinated and stuff. And so I'll never forget, I went away to college and I came back and they were like, yo, like, they like, oh, I'm going to the high school. I'm going to this game. I said, oh, yeah, you need to go there. Like, yo, E Coach is up there, like, rocking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he sucked. Like, when I left, he wasn't that good. He sucked. And I walked up into that gym, and this dude had sprouted to about 6'5".
Wow.
And was smooth. I mean, when I say smooth with it, I mean smooth with it. Like, he could shoot, he could dribble. But I couldn't even believe this was the same kid. And his 4 years of high school, he dominated. Like, he ran stuff. And then he ended up going to junior college because of his grades. He ended up going to a junior college in Texas. Then he ended up going to Oklahoma. And he played a couple of years there. And then he went overseas. But talent-wise, I think if you talk about talent that came out of there, he was probably at the top of my list.
Wow. The first time I heard of Freeport was, I was in college already. Not the town like the high school, the guys coming out of there.
Mm-hmm.
My former teammate from Fairleigh Dickinson, Jamie Latney.
I said, yeah, okay.
He was from Freeport High School. And when I'm telling you, this guy jumped out the building. Like, he dunked on Purvis Ellison twice when we played Louisville.
Okay, all right. I remember that name. I think he was a little older than I was.
Yeah, no, he was, when I was a freshman, he was a senior.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was definitely a lot older than we was. But, he the one, for me, who, like, solidified, like, Long Island dudes being able to rock out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Besides hearing about Billy Donovan all the damn time. Like,
listen,
the most Billy guy on the damn program.
Billy D was a legend. Like, Billy would come down to the park and he would wear these beat up shoes, and he wasn't like, back then people, you try to come out there kind of fresh and, you look in a certain kind of way. Billy, I see Moni, I see you in there. Yep, Freeport in the house. Billy used to come to the park with just like these raggedy shorts and t-shirts and, shoes, and would come and just ball out and like, well, who's this white boy coming out here playing with us? And people were sleeping on him. And then he would come out there and he would ball. I mean, he was killing everybody. And this was back when he was kind of chunky, before he lost all of that weight. But he was a ball. Like, when I say he was a true point guard, he was a true point guard. Like, you could put his picture up.
He was bigger than that? He was chunky?
Bruh, he was big. Like, he was chunky. Like, that was the thing that when he was getting recruited, that was one of their concerns, was because he was kind of pudgy in high school. And so they didn't know if it was something like he was going to work hard to lose that weight, whatever the case was. And then it was, I think, when he went to Providence, he realized that he couldn't carry all that weight and be like that. And so he worked to get his weight and stuff down, and he's Billy the Kid. Like, he's always been Billy the Kid.
And he became a gym rat. I heard he was a gym rat from early on.
Bro, he would ball. Yeah, he would ball from sun up to sundown. He would go to different parks and go ball. Like, that was his life, like, literally.
So when you get to Freeport, what adjustment did you have to make as a freshman? When did you start playing? Let's ask that first.
I played in junior high school, and I actually played on as a freshman.
Okay.
and I was playing on the freshman team, and it was an adjustment for me because suburban, like I coming from the Bronx, the style of play is a little bit different.
So you from the city?
Yeah, I was born in the Bronx. I lived on Baychester Avenue for a few years. My grandparents lived off of Gun Hill Road in East 221st. So I spent a lot of time, even when I was on Long Island, I would go there on the weekends and spend time with my cousins and play ball and do all of that stuff. But it was an adjustment.
Forgot about that, fam. Like, I just wore the New York. I ain't gonna wear the New York City shirt because I like to represent everybody.
You always got that. That's it. But yeah, it was a big adjustment because when I learned how to play, it was more of a street style play. Like it was, going to the hoop and things of that nature. Whereas once I got to school, it was more structured. So it was like they ran plays and, you're doing this and you had to play defense and there was all of these things that happened. So it was an adjustment for me. It took a little bit of time for me to kind of get used to it. And once I did, I was fine. But yeah, it was the first couple of weeks, it was rough. Like I knew, they knew I was good enough. I was just kind of wild. Like I was just like, I'm getting the ball, I'm going to the hoop, and you're gonna have to try to stop me. I don't care how many of y'all there, I'm going. Like that was just me. And it was like, bro, like you can't do that. You gotta pass and you like the cutting and all of that kind of stuff. So I learned all of that. I had to pick that up as a freshman in order to, to move forward. But it was a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah. The one-on-one game versus the team game is a lot different. And a lot of New York City guys learn that once they get to college, right? Because a lot of our tournaments is geared towards one-on-one. And then you get to college and everybody's playing zone and you're like, what is this?
What is this?
Why
are you standing back there? You're supposed to be here. Why are you standing back there? And you know this, like that for New York, especially New York City point guards, a big knock on them was they couldn't shoot because they were so used to going to the basket because in that setup is like you get the ball and go. And then when, like you said, when you get to high school and college and people are playing zone and they're playing off of you, all of a sudden you have to shoot. Well, you ain't been practicing shooting. So it's an adjustment. And some people were able to make that adjustment and some people weren't.
Listen, man, there's so many guys that we can name right now who suffered because they couldn't shoot the jump shot. But they were great ball players. But hit a ceiling because, that jump shot.
That jump shot. Yep, exactly. It was a lot of them, man. It's like a lot of them we played with and played against. And you was like, there's no way this guy should not be playing in the league. But they couldn't shoot.
Nah.
They could not shoot.
Speaking of people who couldn't shoot, I want to say RIP to legendary Dwayne Pearl Washington, who was a legend to us all. And amazed and dazzled us. And maybe that was just his calling just to do what he did, right?
Yeah, Pearl was Pearl. Yeah,
it would have been a different. It would have been a different Pearl if he had a jump shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pearl, and I got to know Pearl going, traveling in Brooklyn and stuff like that. And we knew the same people. And even when I went up to Syracuse to camps, like he would take me around and we would hang out. And it was like, I mean, you think back and you're like, man, if he had a jump shot, the world would have been his oyster.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think that was how it was supposed to be.
There
he was supposed to be. Well, he was in the lane. He was supposed to be. He was flashy. He knew how to get to the basket. He knew how to pass. He knew how to win. Like that was the big thing with him. So he knew how to play the game, but it wasn't meant for him to be that guy with everything.
Because he revolutionary. He revolutionary. He kind of took the point guard position to the next level.
To the next level, yeah,
right?
He did.
Before that, it was tiny.
Yeah. Another one. Another.
And then we get Pearl.
Right. And it was so much space between them. It was like, so you watch the evolution of the point guard, and you also watch the evolution of the game. And it was like Tiny. I used to ball with his nephews. They used to live in the next town over, so I got to know him really well. And it was amazing to see this guy that was 6 feet ball the way that he did. Like, I mean, but he was, at that time, he was the consummate point guard. It was like, you wanted the point guard, he was that guy. And then Pearl came along, and Pearl kind of elevated a little bit, and he took it to another level. And you were like, okay, so yeah. And so each one of these guys laid a blueprint as to what the next guy was going to do. And we've seen it even with Marbury. Marbury was that next guy. And if you look even within his family,
well,
each guy.
I think. Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back because, right? You had Pearl, Kenny Smith, right, and then you had Ross Strickland and Boo Harvey's.
And don't forget Mark Jackson.
Right. Mark Jackson. He was in that Pearl era, right?
In that,
Mark Jackson,
exactly, yeah.
Mark Jackson, Pearl, Kenny Smith, and Kenny Hutchinson. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and people listen. People sleep on Kenny Hutchinson.
Oh,
Kenny Hutchinson was a monster.
Let me tell you. Now, I wasn't, privy to go to these games because I was a lot younger, but I was in the newspaper, right?
There you go.
I was listening to the older guys talk about who was good and who was the man in the city, and his name always came up. Going back to Pearl, Gene Smith from Georgetown DM'd me today because I put up a picture of Pearl. Yes.
Yes.
He said the greatest time he ever had in basketball was playing against Pearl.
I can believe that. Because it was a challenge.
Brother, you got to come on the show. We got to talk,
man,
because
Pearl
ain't here no more.
Gene got stories to tell.
Gene
Gene got stories to tell because I used to love watching them match up because Gene was a defensive ace. Yes. And Pearl was his, he was the next guy. And they used to go at it. Like it was beautiful to see, especially from a basketball standpoint.
Yes.
Because you had this dude that was a defender and that was his thing. And you had this dude that was an offensive player with a handle and he was doing his thing. And it was just like, they would go at it. Like those clashes were legend.
Man. So when you was at Freeport, what high school or what team, were you guys rivals?
Hempstead High School.
Hempstead. The Stead. Wow.
Bro,
okay.
Yeah, listen. They were like, it was literally, to this day, it probably still stands because, you're not far apart. You're running in the same areas. The same people. And Hempstead, from the time that I was in junior high school, was stacked. Like they was bringing, and you knew they was doing something they wasn't supposed to be doing, but they was bringing dudes in that it was just like, you come on. They was recruiting. They was recruiting, bro. Like you'd be like, yo, wait a minute. I know for a fact you live in Roosevelt, so how you going to Hempstead? Like, how is that working? Like they was recruiting these people, and their squads were always stacked from freshmen on up. Like they always had these dudes, and a few of the dudes, they went to D1 schools and stuff like that. But it was like that was a battle. Like we would battle in summer league, and then it would spill over into the season. And for us to get to the finals, we always had to go through them. Like that was always the last game to get, to go to state was you knew you was gonna have to go through Hempstead at some point. Like that's just what it was. Yeah, Mooney, they had a front line. Yo, bro, they had a front line. There was a dude that was like 7 foot. They had another dude that's like 6'10" and another dude like 6'7". I'm like, none of these dudes live in this town.
You never saw them in pickup.
Never saw these dudes. No, I'm like, where did these dudes come from? So they knew what they was doing and they played it right, but it was always a battle with Hempstead. And it was, like I said, it didn't matter if it was summer league, it didn't matter if we was playing checkers. Like that was just what it was. Like it went on for decades.
Yeah. What position did you play?
I played point.
The who?
I was the point. I played the point. I was kind of small. I think when I graduated,
that's a tough position. First of all,
it is. But for me, it was a natural thing because I always loved to pass the ball. So that's why I love guys like Magic Johnson and watching Mark and those guys in the park because I love watching them pass the ball. Like I knew I could score. I would dunk on you if I had to, but
talk, John.
Listen. I ain't gonna sit here in front. I was dunking in like the 8th grade. Like I'll give you the business.
Yo, put your hands up. Put your hands up for a sec. Oh yeah. It came and fit in the screen. Oh, already know. Already know.
Yeah. I'll give you the business. Like that was and especially when I got to probably my June. Actually, I was like 5'11" when I graduated high school, and when I got to college, my freshman year, I grew to like 6'2", and by my sophomore year, I was about 6'4". But
Wow.
yeah, I had always had hops. Like I could always get up, and so you know, you give me a chance, I'll put one down on you. But I love playing the point.
Having such big hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
How difficult was it to get your jump shot right? Because I know guys who got big hands palm the ball a lot and usually let the ball touch the palm of their hand.
It was hard. Like it took me, like that was the one part of my game that I had to diligently work on, because I had big hands, and that was the whole thing. Like, you know, they teach you, like, oh, don't let the ball hit you in the palm of the hand. Well, when your hands are that big, that's kind of hard to do. Like I can't do it. So that was a part of my game that I had to work on. And so my summers, I was like, I literally would just work on shooting jump shots, because I knew I could do everything else. I could pass, I could defend, you know, I could do everything else, but the shooting was the thing. And as I was going up and elevating those levels, because, you know, people start getting tape on you and they start saying, okay, well, we know he ain't going to shoot, so we're going to stand back. And if you play in the zone, I can't drive into the zone like that. So it's like, okay, well, I got to shoot. Well, if I can't shoot consistently enough to make you come out, I'm useless out there. Like, that's just what it is. So I ended up working on it. It was a lot of work. Like I worked on it diligently. I was never going to sit here and say I was a great jump shooter, but I could shoot well enough that I could keep you honest. Because if I did hit a couple, you was going to have to come out and you was going to have to come chase me, which opened up for me to go past you. But, you know, it was work. It was definitely not an easy thing.
Listen, I remember watching Doc, and he was like my favorite ball player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw how he struggled, right,
yes.
with his jump shot because of his hands.
Hands.
You know what I mean? Then he
Have you seen his hands in person?
Shot, right?
Have you seen his hands in person?
No, I never met him in person. I met Jordan in person. Didn't meet
his hands are like 2 baseball mitts. Like, they were huge. Like, outside of Jordan, I've never seen anybody with hands that big.
And look, from then, I started to develop my jump shot early, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to Michael Jordan, because kind of helped me with that. Knowing he had big hands, we kind of played the same position.
Mm-hmm.
I know it took some work for him to develop his jump shot because his hands are so big.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of guys don't realize that, but
yeah, it is. People like, oh, well, you should be able to shoot. Well, no, when your hands are big like that, it's hard because the ball, it's instinct, and the ball automatically touches the palms of your hand. So you saying, oh, I'm going to shoot off your fingertips, it's damn near impossible. And so it is. So guys, when you see a guy with some big hands and he can shoot some jump shots, know that he worked his ass off to be able to do that.
What year did you start to come into your own in high school?
I would say I'd say probably between my sophomore and junior year. I had been going to a couple of camps, and I knew
what
I was
camps? Let's see these camps. I know Syracuse. I used to go to Syracuse, like that was a given. I used to go to Syracuse every year. I used to go to 5-Star. 5-Star, yes.
Yeah. When Jordan had the flight camp down in North Carolina, I went down there a couple of years. So those were the 3 main ones that I went to. I know you know about Lutheran High School out on the island.
Yeah.
So I used to go out there, and I used to work there during the summertime as a counselor and do stuff out there. So that, you know, doing the camp stuff. So I went to a couple of different places. I felt more comfortable at 5-Star and at Syracuse. Those were like my go-tos, because the competition was better. And it was during, I think, when I was actually at 5-Star when I was a sophomore, it made me realize that I could play, like, because there were some guys there that were like, these guys were being recruited by big time schools. You know, we see him, remember Street and Smith? You see him in the Street and Smith magazine.
Yo, it's beat up. But there you go.
See, there you go.
The cover's all gone. This is from
listen. There you go.
87.
See, exactly. So you would see these dudes, and you know, and so when you got on the court with them, like, you know, some dudes they would see them and they would wilt. And I was like, okay, like I could ball with these dudes. Like I realized that I could ball with some guys. And so, but like between my sophomore and junior year, I realized I was like, okay, I can, you know what, I can play. Like I can run with these guys. And it was so funny because there was a guy, I'll never forget this guy. His name was King Rice. And he played upstate. And King was like the big thing in Binghamton. Like he was, they thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so everybody was talking about this guy coming to this camp. And so I didn't, you know, I saw the name and everything, but I was just like, all right, you know, whatever. So we end up, and remember back when we used to go to basketball camp, and they used to have like your name on a tag and you put it on your shoe. So you didn't know about his name unless you looked down at their name tag. So I'm balling against this dude and I'm killing him. Like I'm killing him.
Hold on. I was hoping you said that. I was hoping you said, let's make some noise for that. Let's make some noise for that.
Bruh. I was killing him.
Go ahead, continue, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Go ahead.
So I'm playing this dude, and I'm killing him. I'm killing him offensively. I'm killing him defensively. He's complaining because I basically locked him down, and you know he's trying dirty stuff, trying to throw elbows and stuff, and
he's a football player.
He was a football player. So I'm giving him the business. Like, I'm giving him the business. And we end up at the foul line. Somebody's going to shoot some free throws. And I look down, and I see the name tag on his shoe, and it says King Rice. And I'm like, you King Rice? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, bruh, if you are being recruited like this, I know I can play because you trash. Like, literally. And so that at that moment, being at that between that time, I was like, okay, I can play with these dudes. Like I belong out here. But let's make some noise again for John Copeland busting King Rice ass. Yo.
Yo, let me tell you. 1986, we up at Glen Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
We beat Kenny Anderson and Malloy Friday night, overtime. The next night, we beat Long Island Lutheran, double overtime. Then they have us play against Binghamton, 12:30 the next day. Right?
Right.
King Rice is a 5-star kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's been going to 5-star since he was like 6.
Right.
Right. So there was a lot of fake pub behind him, right?
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Wasn't the guy that was killing us. It was the guy, I don't know his first name, but I remember his last name, Coleman, because he kind of wore me out. Another football player. He actually went to Syracuse to play football.
Yes, I know you're talking about, yeah.
Right? We lost to them in the state championship, basically because we was wore out. But we knew, after I look at it now, the year before, Binghamton lost to All Hallows. Darryl Walker and those guys, right?
Right.
So, they wasn't going to let them lose again. That's number one.
The politics, you know how that go.
So, to top it off what you said, not only that you bust his ass, Tiny gave him the business, and also my guy, Antoine Lewis, destroyed him. Antoine Lewis, who played with Pat Alphonse, destroyed him.
Yeah.
And that's how he got to go to Kansas. He wanted to go to Iona, but he wanted to make sure that people knew that King Rice wasn't that good.
Yes.
He's a better coach than he was a basketball player.
Oh, yeah, he's way better. Listen, that kid should have stuck to football. Like, football was his.
Yes.
That was his sport. He should have stuck to football because
he got to go to North Carolina, fam.
He got to.
So just imagine, you could have been at Duke.
Bruh, I was like, if he's playing at UNC, then I need to be playing at UNC because he's garbage. Like I was like, I could not believe that I was like, yo, this can't be the same dude. Like this has to be a joke. Like you can't be serious.
Yo, all my people that's here checking out John Copeland, all his friends, his family members. Listen, John had game. He's speaking the truth. When we go back and we talk about certain things and certain names, you already know this is authentic basketball right here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We all knew that King Rice wasn't what he was.
No.
This is no hate.
No, ain't no hate.
No hate.
There's no hate. I see DC slid up in here. What's up, bro?
Derek Coleman, salute.
What's up, bro? Absolutely.
Steve, been doing a lot of fun. Yes, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Legend in our book, fam.
No, yeah, listen, DC was, I am going to say probably, DC was the best and most talented player I've ever shared the court with, playing with and playing against at camp. Like, this dude was, 6'9", 6'10". He was handling the ball on the break. He would grab a rebound, lead the break, look one way, throw the ball the other way with no look. And he was just like, you're not supposed to be that big and be that good. Like
he was doing what Anthony Mason was doing for the Knicks early on.
Exactly. He was and he was more talented than Anthony Mason.
Oh, it was way more talented.
DC rolled out of bed and gave you 20 and 10.
Let me tell you, I used to run to DC all the time at my guy's Jason Williams spot called Big Daddy's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you know what I'm talking about, DC. All the time, just like again. Me, Pat Alphonse, my guy Pat Burns, all New York City ball players would roll up to that spot. Kenny Anderson, all of us,
all of them, man. Like I said, it was like, and that was the thing. Like me, him, and Pat, and them crews when we was up there in Syracuse, we went to war, and then it was all laughter and fun afterwards. It was all jokes. I know DC probably don't remember. One night we was running around the dorms having a cookie fight, throwing cookies all over the place. Like it was just crazy. Like. We was kids, like we would go on the court and we would battle and we would go at each other, and then afterwards we would just clown, and it was crazy. Like it was some great times, and like I said, I still cherish those relationships. I was so glad when I reconnected with Pat, because I hadn't seen Pat and talked to Pat in a minute, and we ended up catching up again on Facebook, and so it's cool to rekindle those connections with people, especially dudes that you had all these great memories with. And I see DC, like I've seen him a couple of times at All-Star games and stuff, and it's all love. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, man. Those times were great times. It helped us grow up as young men, being away from home, learning how to conduct ourselves, being with people from other areas of the country.
Yes.
And knowing that, a lot of us have similar stories. Slight different backgrounds, but a lot of the same stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so your senior year, what's going on your senior year?
My senior year, I was ready to go, and literally, I think it was the first day of practice or second, or it was like first or second day of practice. I messed up my knee, and that basically. So I didn't even really play my senior year. Like I played towards the end of the season, but I couldn't. It was a lost season for me because I messed up my knee, and back then that was, they didn't have arthroscopic surgery and all that stuff. So they would, if they was going to cut you, you knew you was going to be out for a minute. And I had fractured my kneecap. And so I didn't want to get cut. So I was just like, yo, the doctor's like, we can put you in a brace, hopefully it'll come back together and this, that, and the other. So I was in the brace for like 6 months, and so it really just wiped out my senior year. The good thing for me was that because of what I had done, like in summer leagues and some of the stuff and in some of these camps and stuff like that, people knew who I was. So like the offers that I wanted to come in didn't necessarily come in, but I was still getting offers. But I ended up deciding to go down to Morehouse, to go down to Atlanta, because the coach was offering me a chance to go and play and stuff. And I wanted to be away from home. So that was the choice. But my senior year got wiped out from injury. And that was the one thing that and it happened a couple of times. Like I had broken my hand a couple of times, like either during the season or right before the season. So the seasons were short for me. And then, I would look good over the summer and everybody was like, okay, we can't wait to get him on the court. And then I get hurt. and it's like I had to start that whole thing again. But like I said, I don't regret it. It worked out the way it was supposed to. So, but like I said, that's why like even like I tell people like younger kids, like I had a couple of younger cousins that played and stuff. That it's great to do stuff during the season. Like that's cool, and you do what you do when the lights are on. But the off season is where you make your name. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you go to these, and especially when we were coming up, we didn't have all of the AAU stuff. So we had camps and we had summer league, and you had all these people going out to these spots, checking these guys out. So those were the times that you needed to put yourself on people's radar. I got on people's radar from playing summer league and from playing at camps, and coach was like, I never heard of this kid before. I don't, you know, where's he from? Who is this dude? That's how I got on people's radar. You know,
What summer leagues were you balling out? What summer leagues were you balling at?
Bro, I used to play at West Fourth, of course, all the time. Soul in the Hole, which man.
Okay.
Listen, I was one of them dudes that,
you know, West Fourth, I'm going, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like, you see everybody go there,
the Rucker, I was one of them dudes that, even though I was from the island, I always wanted to be where the action was. I wanted to be where the ball was. So if it meant going to Brooklyn to go to Soul in the Hole, then that's where I went. If it meant going up to Uptown to Rucker to go play, that's where I went. So I followed the games. And I would, you know, I get on the train, head out to the city, and just bounce from borough to borough, you know, looking for games.
The signs of a real baller. Let me tell you. Back then, listen, you know, I hear these kids, I'm taking the Uber here, I'm getting in the lift, I'm going, get in the train.
We get on the train, the bus.
Get that feeling. Get that feeling
man.
of the grind. So you know how to move about in the city.
Well, that was the other thing, is that it helped you learn how to navigate the city. So, because listen, Soul in the Hole wasn't easy to get to. You had to catch a couple of trains to get there.
And a bus. You could have walked there, but really you wanted, you know, take that
right.
bus.
Yeah.
And don't want to be walking through the elements. You take that bus, get off right there in Monroe, walk right down the street, you good.
That's it. So it helped you navigate the city at the same time. So for me, it was twofold. It was like, yeah, I'm going to ball, but I'm also knowing how to get around here and you know, without having to worry about trying to drive nowhere, nothing. Like I get on the train, get on the subway, get on the bus. I know where I'm going. I'm cool, you know. So it was a great experience. Like, and I met a bunch of great people. I wasn't scared to go nowhere because no matter where you went, especially as long as you had a basketball under your arm, they was like, oh, okay, he came to ball.
Preach.
And that's just what it was, you know. And for me, those were the proving grounds. Soul in the Hole and Rucker and West Fourth. If you could hold your own in those spots, then you knew that you could ball, because that was not for the faint of heart. Like, you couldn't be out there, you know, I seen dudes go out there, you know, trying to be Johnny Jump Shot and trying to be cute. Those weren't the places for that.
Yeah, nobody want to see that. They'll boo you in a minute. You got a fast break by yourself, you lay it up, you might as well go home.
You might as well go home. If you do that, you might as well go home. So for me, that was where I tested my mettle, and I was like, all right, yo, I can ball with these dudes. Like, I'm good, and I got respect. I earned respect. Ain't nobody gave me nothing. I earned everything I got. So that was where I took it, is when I go to those things that I was like, all right, let's see what you got. And I was one of them dudes, like, I talked a lot.
So I can tell, because once you looked up and saw that King Rice is guarding you, you was kicking his ass, you was like, oh, he trash.
Yeah, I talked a lot. Like, I was just like, yo, my thing was, especially playing defense, if you scored on me, I took it personally.
Same here.
It was a personal insult. And so my thing is, I'm going to lock you down. And while I'm locking you down, I'm going to tell you about it. Like, I'm literally going to tell you what's going to happen here. And I'm going to talk the whole time. And see, the other part of it is, if I draw you out of your game and you start doing some stuff, I got you.
Yeah.
So if I know you can't shoot, and I'm telling you, I'm standing back 10 feet, and I'm like, bro, I'm going to let you have that. Go ahead and shoot. And turn my back on you. You trying to prove me wrong. So you're going to start shooting. And that ain't your game. So I won.
The game is 90% mental.
Thank you.
I tell kids this all the time. 90% mental. Listen, I wanted to give Gene Smith his props, because he was one of the guys that inspired me to want to play against the best, right?
Right.
So, you know, my sit down with Lloyd Daniels, and I'm talking to him how he gave me, Doc Brown, and my guy Juice, we all shared 47 for Lloyd Daniels. He was giving it to us, left hand, right hand. He was shooting Steph Curry three-pointers. There was no three-pointers back in the day.
Back then.
But the one thing he remembered, he was like, Pooh, you was grabbing my shorts, grabbing my jersey, and making it tough for me. I said, yo, fam, you was 6'8" doing Magic Johnson things. You heard?
Yo, listen, that brother, I mean, yo, he was one of the most talented dudes I've ever seen on a basketball court. Like, you would, at 6'8" and being able to play the game, I mean, he played the game all the way around. He could shoot, he could pass. I mean, it was like, and he made it look easy. Like, he would drop 30 on you, and you would think he had like 10.
That wasn't my first running with him. My first running with him was in the playoffs at Lincoln, but he was starting, and I was in the bench. You know who ass he was kicking? Kenny Parker. Kenny Parker, DJ Kenny Parker. He was my teammate at Lincoln.
Right.
Right? I just had him on the show. And he said the same thing. He said, I was a senior, Lloyd was a freshman. Game was 29. Kenny couldn't do anything with him. Kenny's a Division I player.
Nobody could do nothing with that.
Listen, Lloyd was a pro at 14. People didn't realize this.
That's real
the
talk.
Guy he was smoking crack. Fam.
Yo.
While we was playing, and this is no disrespect because Lloyd is my guy. Everybody knows his story. And he got shot in the stomach.
That's the thing. Bro, and that's the thing is you look at him and you look at all of the stuff that he went through, and he was still, even when he finally did make it to the league, he was still balling. He was still giving people a business.
How do you make it to the NBA after all that?
I have no idea. Like
the most high. When the most high have a plan for you,
he got a plan for you.
He got a plan. The same thing we talked about Pearl. Maybe that was just what he's supposed to do for us.
Right.
Lloyd, the same thing. And now he's giving back to kids. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Lloyd is out there coaching these kids, winning games, and loving what he's doing and loving life. Salute to my guy, Lloyd Daniels.
No doubt. No doubt.
The great.
Absolutely.
Man. So, you go down to Morehouse, and now you got to make another transition. You coming from Freeport, Long Island, and you going down to Atlanta, Georgia. What is life like for the young John Copeland Jr. down there?
I ain't gonna lie. It was wild as hell. Like I was wild in college. Like I was just like, yo, they was like, wait, I was like, my parents ain't here and I ain't gotta worry about nobody telling me I gotta go to class and all this stuff. Freedom. Right. I was like, I wasn't ready for all that. Like I was having too much fun. But it was you know, being on my own, like I realized like a lot of the life lessons that my parents had taught me kind of clicked when I went to college. Like they were big on, you knowing how to wash your clothes and how to sew and balance a checkbook and all that kind of stuff. So when I went to school, it all made sense. Like I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is why I needed to learn how to do this. So it was an adjustment. I had to learn how to manage my time. And then it was like when basketball season came around, because it was like I had class and I had practice and, and I had study hall. Like I had all this stuff that I had to figure out and say, okay, look, I gotta do this. I want to have a good time and everything, but I need to be able to do this. Like I got to get this stuff done. And so it made me kind of a little bit more focused on figuring out like time management and things of that nature, because it all started to click. And then balling wise, it was a different animal because I was playing against like some big corn-fed Southern type dudes. Like these dudes was, they were physical. Like, everything was like, there was no finesse. Like, and dudes would tell me, they'd be like, man, don't go to the basket because you're going to get hurt. Yes. And me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to the basket. And I got hurt. Like these dudes, they was hammering dudes. Like these were some big dudes. There was a dude that I was a freshman and he was a senior. He played at Clark University. And he actually, I think if I'm right, Ernest Lee got drafted by the Lakers.
Okay, Ernest Lee
But
sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, he led Division II scorers. I think his senior year he averaged like 32, 33. And he was huge. Like he was like 6'2", maybe 6'3", but he was about as wide as a refrigerator.
Right.
And he was just beating people up. Like he could shoot, but he was just beating folks up. And that was something that I had to get used to. Like it was like we played this dude, and this dude would physically beat you up like a football player. Like it was just that's just what it was. So it was a different style of play. And these dudes played big and they played physical. And so I had to make an adjustment from this kind of finesse style playing to, okay, I have to get more physical. So I had to put on size. So luckily I grew a couple of inches. I put on probably about 10 pounds of muscle to be able to handle that a little bit better. The other thing that helped us is that the Atlanta Hawks used to practice in our gym after we practiced. So we would hang around and watch them practice and stuff. And then when their practice was over, we would have open run. And so we would all play. So, I'm playing at that time. It was like Dominique Wilkins and Kevin Willis and John Battle and them dudes, John Concat. So you learned that, okay, this is the style of play down here. And they made you better. Like, cause they didn't take it easy on us. They was down there beating the hell out of us. But it was a different thing.
Do you realize that Ernest Lee is one of the top 5 black college players of all time?
Of all time, yes. Bro, he was...
I just looked that up. Forward.
Bro, he was a monster. Like, there was no stopping that dude. Like, there just wasn't. Because he was physically imposing, and he knew how to play the game. Like, he knew how to use his size. But even as big as he was, he could shoot. So, like, when he came, he was like Curry. Like, he came over half court. You had to start thinking about jumping out there to get him because he would shoot a 30-footer on you and make them consistently. So he was a different kind of animal. And we knew he was a different kind of animal because pro scouts were coming down there on a regular going to look at this dude. Because they was like, let's see what this. You don't average 33 points by accident. Like,
and his stars, I'm looking at pictures, stars is like
he's huge. He was huge. When I say he was huge, he was huge. I was like, dude, like he should be on a football field. That was not his thing. He was an all player. Like he balled out.
This is crazy. I'm just amazed right now, man. Jumping Jackie Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy from Brooklyn who gave Connie Hawkins the business.
Gave him the business.
Virginia Union, right? Then you get P.B. Kirkland. Hope to get P.B. on here soon.
Mm-hmm.
Norfolk State. Harry Machine Gun Kelly, Texas Southern.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Lee, okay? And Ralph Talley, another
bruh. That's what I'm saying.
So
yeah, Mooney, you was shooting Curry type shots back in 89. But yeah,
can't sleep on the HBCUs, man.
No, man, you can't. And that was the thing. And it was like, and when he would play against like these big time dudes, he would show up. Like he wasn't one of them dudes where the brighter the lights got and he would shrink. This dude balled. Like he got better. And like I said, we had to see him, I think like 3-4 times a season. It wasn't nothing nice. It wasn't nothing good about that.
What was your best game at Morehouse?
My best game at Morehouse, I think it was a game I scored. I think I had like 16 points. I had like 8 assists, and I had like 8 rebounds. And that was one of them times where I was like, okay, yeah, I can play. Like I was on, I felt good. The coach wasn't yanking me on because my coach did not like East Coast dudes. So
we New York guys, let me tell you, people don't realize New York guys go through so much. And this is why Kemba Walker is going through what he's going through right now.
Exactly.
It seems like for some reason they wait to New York guys when they can't use you no more and they just get rid of you. They do it time and time again. It never fails.
Listen, you can't tell me Kemba can't play. Like, you're not going to tell me that.
Come on, fam.
You're not going to tell me that.
You can't tell me. Oh, now y'all going to talk about his size after all these years?
Come on, man. I'm not trying to hear it. And especially when New York dudes went south, there was a natural hate for that. Like, it was like, we don't want y'all down here. We damn sure don't want you balling because we know what y'all do. And my coach, like I said, my coach didn't like, he didn't like me. And being from New York, even though I played the game, I knew what was going on. I played their style of play. I figured it out. But he was just like, the idea that I was from New York was just like, yeah, you know what, we good. You're going to sit over here. And so that's what it was. And it was like one of the things where I had a game where I actually got out there and I balled out, and he let me ball out. I don't know, it must have been a good day, but he left me out there, and I went out there and I did my thing. And I was like, okay, like I know I can play. Like, that's not the issue. You the issue because you don't like me, and I need to be out here. And I know I'm better than these dudes that you got out here, period. So
he's not exaggerating. I know certain guys that when they went to the South or the Midwest, they wouldn't tell them they was from New York.
You couldn't. No, you
wouldn't. They're from Delaware, they're from Jersey, any place else other than New York.
Other than New York. And that's why New York dudes they avoided those Southern schools like that, because it was like, you knew if you went down there was already a prejudice against you, and they wasn't trying to have you out there. So they was like, nah, we good. We, that's cool. But because there was dudes walking around on my campus that should have been on the team. And they was like, nah, we good with this. Like, we cool. And I was down there, and that was like, when I was down there, John Sally was at Georgia Tech. So we used to ball. We used to go open run with him. The Dalrymple dude that was to Georgia Tech, he was down there. Bruce Dalrymple, he was down there. So it was, like I said, once again, I always went where the games were. So if, the dudes in Georgia Tech was like, yo, we balling, we got open run, that's where I'm going. If dudes was like, yo, we going to the hood, we going down to the bottom to go play, then that's where I'm going. So I've always loved the game, and I've always followed the game because it made me feel good. And the better the competition, the better I played. Like, that was just what it was. Like, I wasn't intimidated. Even when I finally did hit college and I got a little bit older, I wasn't intimidated sharing the court with like Rod Strickland and Mark Jackson and them dudes. I was like, yo, I'm going at you just like you going at me. Now you probably gonna win, but I'm not backing down. Like, I'm not gonna be scared. Like, I'm not doing that. And that's just
the shit talking you wouldn't let you back down.
Man, I wouldn't let you do it. I wouldn't let you do it. I couldn't. I was like, bro, like, no, you're not gonna do that to me. And if I did some shit, I was gonna tell you about it too. Like,
right.
I was gonna let you know, and you was gonna hear it the whole rest of the afternoon. So
I wanted to get to Mark Anthony's question. He said, do you think that the lack of street ball is constricting the quality of NBA caliber players?
I think it has an effect. I think when we were coming up, that the thing about street ball and about, summer leagues and things of that nature was that, and you remember this, I know you remember this, is there were these pro-am tournaments.
Yes.
So
City College, yes.
Yeah,
sure.
So you would get to play against these pro guys, and so you had a mixture of street guys and you had a mixture of pro players, and you realize that a lot of these street guys could play with these guys. They just weren't given the opportunity, whether it was for education or whatever the case may be, but the opportunity wasn't there. And then AAU came, and AAU became a business. So it became, let me stack as many dudes on this team as I can get, and we just gonna blow through these people. We're not really gonna get better, but we're gonna get exposure. We're gonna put you out there, and we're gonna fly you all over the place. And so it's watered the game down. So you have a lot of kids out here, like, and you see it because you have a lot of kids out here that don't understand what competition is. They don't want to compete. So their thing is, look, I was a 5-star. You just need to give me whatever it is you need to give me. I don't need to work for it, and I'm going to go on about my business. Where for us, when we were coming up, we had to work for it. You had to work for everything you got. You had to work to be on the summer league team, to get run.
You had to work to be on the AAU team, because back then it was only three.
Listen, the Riverside
Gauchos,
and
Riverside, and Broncos.
Riverside, bro, you
didn't make those three, you kind of stayed home and developed your game.
Yes, and that was the thing.
But that didn't make the city weak, because you had a lot of good ball players still competing against each other.
Exactly. And so AAU was kind of watered that down. And I won't say kind of, it's watered it down because you have all of these entitled kids. They don't want to compete. They just want to go out there. They want to put up numbers. They want to do their thing. And, you know, and then when it comes time for competition, like when you get to school and all of a sudden you realize there's dudes out there better than you and what have you, it's like, oh, I'm not going to be here. I need to transfer because I can't be here because I'm not going to play. No, listen, I'm going to take, you know this. If you got that spot, I'm coming to take your spot. I'm not going nowhere else. I don't want to go anywhere else. I am taking your spot. So you better be on your A game. You better be ready because I'm coming. Period. That's how we came up. And these dudes and these kids nowadays, that's not how it goes. They're not built like that. So when it gets tough and things are not going the way that they feel that they should go, they're like, oh, I'm out. I'm not even trying to compete. I'm going somewhere where I know they're going to give me some stuff. So, yeah,
you heard he said, I'm going to go someplace where they give me some stuff. Sneakers, bags, slippers, headbands, and all these things.
All of that
the
stuff.
Nike, the Adidas, all of these sneaker companies. Listen, when you look at guys like Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, John Morant, none of them were ranked players, but they dominate the NBA. Now you had all these AAU guys and all these top guys ranked higher than them. That's nowhere to be found in the NBA right now. I dare you. Look at their classes, who they came out with, and compare their numbers with the guys who was ranked higher than them. And that will answer your question.
Absolutely. It changed the game. And my thing is this, and I tell, even though my son plays football, I tell him this, and I tell all of these young kids this, is that if you have the talent, they will find you. It doesn't matter what school you're at. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, a Power 5. None of that matters. If you're talented enough, they're going to find you. Like, wasn't nobody coming out of where I was coming out of Freeport. Wasn't no big names and stuff like that. But they found me because I made sure that I was being seen. Like, I made sure that when the lights went on and it was time to ball and these big names were stepping out there, I'm like, oh, you're going to know who I am when it's over. Like, you might not know me now, but you're going to know when it's over. You're going to know exactly who I am.
Facts. When you and Pat Burke was on that bus, who were y'all talking about? Who was Pat warning you about?
Bro, Pat was like, yo, that's all Pat talked about that for like 2 hours. He was like, yo, y'all heard who going to be up there? And I was like, nah, who's going to be up there? He's like, yo, man, Derek Coleman's supposed to be up there. I heard he bringing his crew. And like I said, DC was on the cover of Street and Smith. We was like, yo, I was like, oh,
but
shit,
he was the real deal, right?
He was the real deal.
Right? You knew you was playing against Marcus Liberty, all those guys who was from a different town.
Exactly.
You knew what you was getting. Ben Wilson, rest in peace. You knew they was coming with game.
Exactly. And
it wasn't just a bunch of hype.
No, it wasn't no hype. These dudes was real, and Derek was real. And so Pat was like, yo, we coming. He's like, I don't care about this motherfucker. We coming out here and we gonna ball. So we gonna, this crew here on this bus, it was me, him, Laurel Hendricks. I can't remember the other two dudes.
My guy.
Laurel's my guy. Them two dudes, and they was like, so we was like, yeah, we was amped up before we got off the bus. We was like, yeah, yo, we about to serve this up. And so we got out there and we got into that dome and we saw Derek and we saw his crew, and this crew was crazy because they had a point guard at that time that was a freshman. This dude was like 6'5". The shooting guard was this little dude. I'll never forget his name. His name was Johnny Williams, and he was about 6'1", and he could jump out the gym. And then there was Derek at 6'9". They had another dude was like 6'10", and the small forward was like 6'8". And these dudes walked into the dome like they owned it. Like they was like, yeah, we here. And so me, Pat, Laurel, and then we sitting over there looking like
Detroit heavy. Woo.
Yeah, we was like, yo, okay, we see you. And so when we had they had the tryouts to pick the teams and stuff like that, you know, everybody's balling and stuff. And I actually played on Derek's team the first game. So the first game we played, DC's on my team, and this dude goes up for a shot. I block the shot. The ball goes loose. So I go get the ball, and I'm running to the basket. And all I hear DC is, he's like, trailer. So I go up like I'm going to the basket, and I throw it off the backboard, and he grabs it, and he dunks it. And so everybody's like, oh, okay. Like, this is what we doing. I was like, yeah, this is what we doing. And so the competition started with that. And him and Pat, like when him and Pat went at it, Pat wasn't scared of him. Pat was going right at him like, yo, I'm giving you this work. And so
wide ass shoulders.
Yeah, them wide ass shoulders. He was giving them the work. And so
right.
We was like, so he was telling him, he's like, yo, we ain't scared of you. He's like, we from the Bronx, we not scared of you, we coming. And so DC was like, all right, yo, open run, we gonna see where y'all at. So open run came in the evening, and we all went on to a court, and we went at it. And we went at it for a good probably hour and a half. And they probably won more games than we did, but it wasn't no easy walk.
That's
like,
right.
It wasn't. So, but we gained their respect. And so after that, we just chilled. Like when we weren't playing, we were all chilling and hanging out together. But it was cool because you met somebody from a different place. Like we didn't know much about Detroit and all of that stuff there. So we learned, you're learning these different cultures. And like DC was like, yo, I was originally from Alabama and I moved, to Detroit, and Johnny was my first friend. Like he helped me in this fight, and that's how we became tight. So we got to know each other. And so, we was like, next year, we're like, yo, camp was over. We'd be like, yo, I'll see you next year. But there was a respect thing with it. But it's that whole thing of iron sharpens iron. You're not going to get better unless you play against or do things against people that are better than you. Like, that's just what it was.
Yo, Karen Miller's right on point. Salute to P&D Nation. She said sometimes people get caught up in a ranking.
Absolutely.
And especially nowadays. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. One day we showed up to camp, and our bus pull up, and they're playing New York, New York. We like, yeah, like we step on the bus. We get off the bus. We get in our bags. So there's another bus coming. And they got the nerve to play Shirley Murdoch. It's morning. We was like, what they know about Shirley Murdoch? We didn't catch on that they was playing the song for Alonzo Mourning, who was only in the 10th grade.
Bruh. See?
There was levels.
There was levels too.
Okay? And these guys were the real deal. We talking about NBA Hall of Famer, right?
Listen, bruh.
Derek Coleman, one of the best power forwards to ever play the game, period.
Ever.
No matter
Ever.
what level.
Exactly. It was, man. It was like I said, the talent that came out when we were around, like I said, Derek was one of those generational talents. Like he was he was the first real, you can almost say he was almost like a stretch four, because he didn't necessarily just play under the basket. He could step out onto the wing and he could shoot that shot. He could lead the break. Like he was that dude. He was that dude before Chris Webber. Like he was the dude that Chris Webber looked at and was like, I want to be like that guy. I want to do what that guy does. And I want to bring the ball up court. I want to be able to do those things. Like Derek was so far ahead of his time that it wasn't even funny. Like, and like I said, he rolled out of the bed and gave you 20 and 10. Like that was just how talented he was.
Listen, not only did he get love on the national stage, every hood in America showed love, right?
Because he was that
dudes
dude.
was getting those starter jackets. They was getting those Syracuse starter jackets and those, right? Because of DC. Like, that was it. Him and Sherman Douglas, right? And those dudes. But DC was the guy. So every neighborhood, every corner, every basketball in the neighborhoods, dudes was calling out that name.
Yeah, because he was that dude. Like he was truly that dude. And listen, game recognized game. Like you knew.
That's right.
You would see dudes and you'd be like, I don't care where that dude from. That dude can ball. Like that's just what it was. But for us, it was never, when we were coming up, we weren't caught up in the rankings and all of that stuff.
No. Because
that
like
wasn't
you
our
said,
thing.
Who you, King Rice?
And
that's all you got. That's all you got to know right there, baby.
That's it. And this dude was the #1 ranked point guard in the nation.
In the nation.
In the nation. I mean, everybody named mama was chasing this dude. And I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, I'm in the 10th grade. Don't nobody know me. And I'm killing this dude. So if these people recruiting him like that, then I need to get on that shit, because he ain't got nothing on me. So you ain't impressing me. And listen, I see him to this day and I still tell him to his face, I kicked your ass.
Listen, it's always gatekeepers, baby. And like I said,
always. When
you've been going to camp since you're 8 years old and people pushing you, it's a whole different beast, man. So let's get back into you. Let's talk about some memorable moments at Morehouse. Did you pledge?
No, I did not.
all right, cool. That's all good. Cause me either, right?
Yeah.
My fraternity was ball five ball, right?
That was it. Exactly.
Right. But I always wondered, right? And this is no disrespect to anybody who's joined a fraternity or sorority.
Mm-hmm.
I just always had these questions, especially when I was in college, and now that I'm a grown man, I kind of understand it. So why do fraternities and sororities still follow the mantra of the Greek system?
That's a great question. But I think a lot of, like, and it was funny because my roommate and I were talking about this, my college roommate and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, because we would literally stay awake at night when we was talking about pledging Kappa. And so,
listen, if I was going to play,
if I was going, that's where I was going. I was going to be a Kappa.
My guys is Kappas, yeah.
And so we used to talk about that, like, we was like, yo, we're going to pledge Kappa, understand the other, blah, blah, blah. And I was so caught up in ball and stuff like that I was just like, no, I can't really do that right now. And he didn't do it. Now, he pledged grad chapter, and he just went over like a couple of years ago. And so he called me. He's like, bro, like, I did it. Like, you need to do it because we talked about this. So it's still something I'm considering. But I think the big thing about it is tradition. Like, with the tradition with the sororities and the fraternities, this legacy thing, and it's something that you can look back on and be like, I was part of this. Like, I was part of this brotherhood or this system.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I understand you have predominantly white fraternities and predominantly black fraternities. Only thing I'm saying is, why are we still following the Greek mantra? Now, I'm going to talk a little controversy now.
Okay, let's see.
Because a really good friend of mine, he's a Mason.
Okay.
And he talks about the same thing. They follow the Greek mantra. And he got to bring a lot of the African stuff to the meetings and, the history, right? And I just think sometimes when we push those things to the side, I just question, right? This is no knock. I think those are great organizations and they do a lot of great things for the community. So, this is just a question that I would like to put out there, knowing that you guys have great conversations on your show.
That's a great, that's actually something I need to look into. That's actually a great question. So, okay, because it's something that, that is actually something to think about, is why even, decades and stuff later, that this is still something that we follow. But I just think that it's one of those things, I think, especially if you come from a family that it's a traditional, it's ingrained in you. Like, I have friends that they're like, yo, my great-great-grandfather was an alpha, my great-grandfather was alpha. Like, it just goes down the line. And it's more of a tradition and legacy thing than anything else. Like, that's the way that they look at it. But yeah, why they're following the mantra and how all of that works, that's an interesting question. So that's something I need to look into and see why that is occurring, because it is something you look at and you're like, okay, well, why does this continue, even though you know certain history and stuff? Why would this continue to happen?
And this have nothing to do with race or anything like that, right? We just talk about history, right? And I think, if we're gonna have the Greek, I think we should have the African experience as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I hear you.
You still can't combine the both.
Right. I hear you.
Because I like the Greek letters, so it's all good. It's all good. So, what was the transition after college?
After college, I ended up going back home. I came back to New York, and I started working. Like, I started grinding away. I had a couple of like internships with some big companies to work, and I got to the grind. Like, I started working and got caught up in the whole, rat life thing, just getting on the train, going to work, coming home, like that whole thing. Like, I jumped right into it. But I got tired of it. Like, I was just kind of like, ugh, all right, there's got to be more to it than this. So maybe about 2 or 3 years after I got home, the NFL draft was coming up, and I had a friend that was actually being drafted. And back then, remember, the draft would come on TV, and you would see these guys and they had like a long table and, you know, they would pull a card and stuff. And sometimes the guys would be there, sometimes they wouldn't. And so one of my guys got drafted and he was up there with like sweatpants and a t-shirt. And I was like, okay, like this is not, that's not a good look. Like you're not supposed to look like that, especially being on TV. Like you just got drafted. You should not be wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. So the following, maybe it was like 2 years later when they started to expand the draft and started to become like a bigger thing. I had a friend that was, because I was into fashion and stuff at that time. Like I was managing a couple of like retail stores and stuff. And they were like, I was like, well, if you go into the draft, let me dress you. Like, let me put you in a suit and a tie. And let's, you know, because now it's business. You're a business now. So let's make you look like, you know, even if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, we're going to make you look like it. So I dressed him up. I put him in a suit. He goes to the draft. And he says people are asking him, like, where'd you get that suit from? Who dressed you? This, that, and the other. And he told them. And so I started getting calls from people about, you know, getting dressed. And so I had a friend that was like, he had done personal shopping for people. And so he was like, yeah, it's a nice little racket. Like, you know, if you get the right clients and this, that, and the other, you can do your thing. And so I started my business and I started a personal shopping business. And it started off with a few NFL players, and then it ended up going to a couple of NBA players, and then like some CEOs of some companies and stuff like that. And I built my business up. So now I was able to leave the corporate rat race and I was able to do my thing and I worked for myself. Now I worked harder because it was for me. So right. I started a personal shopping business and that lasted a good 10, probably, no, actually longer than that. It's probably close to like 15 years. And it was my thing because I love clothing. I love the whole fashion thing. I love seeing guys when they're dressed up and they look a certain way. And especially because I'm big on presentation. Like I'm big on if you're going to a meeting or you're going somewhere, you should look a certain kind of way.
Right.
And that was just from the way that I was growing up from my parents, from my father. My father was my first fashion plate. Like he was my mentor. He was the guy, like he would go and he was wearing a shirt and tie even when he didn't have to. And that stuck with me. So I was like, let me pass this on to these guys. And so that's how I built my business. So I did that for a while. Like I did entertainers and all of that stuff. And that was like, I used to see Pat at the parties because I had people there that I was dressing and things of that nature. And I'd be like, what you doing here? And he's like, hey man, I just shot this Mary J. Blige video. I'm just hanging out. Like I was like, that was just what it was. But that was what got me started to have my own business. And I was like, after that, I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, you know what? This is what I want to do. And so I did that until I did that until I moved out here. That was my thing. So I kept it up. I had a nice client list and, you know, it was fun. Like I had a great time with it. When I moved to Arizona, it made it a little bit harder because of the distance and most of my clients were in New York. And for a time, I flew back and forth to do that. And then especially once I started having kids and stuff, it became a little bit much. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to shut this down. And that was basically it.
Wow, man, salute to your dad, man.
Thank you.
The first sign of success that you were seeing was your dad, right?
Yeah,
he was. And a lot of young kids who don't grow up with a dad in the household, the first sign of success they see is the guy in the street.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the people don't realize how much of an effect that has on a child. Right?
It does.
You know, I came up in a single parent household, but what I was doing, I was watching guys like Dr. J. I was watching his mannerisms, how he dressed, how he talked to people, how he spoke in his interviews.
Yep.
Marvin Gaye, right? I remember these men. I remember these men. These guys who was, you know, they was really big personalities, but they were subtle gentlemen.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And you could relate to them.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and that's what it was. It was like, and because for me, like I met Dr. J for the first time in a barbershop. And it was almost like the Dave Chappelle thing where he talked about, he saw Rick James with the aura. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was sitting in the barbershop, and this was before I knew that he was my friend Barry's uncle.
Right.
So he's sitting in the bar. We're sitting in the barbershop, and this dude comes in, and he has this huge afro, and he sits down. Now I'm sitting in the chair, waiting to get a haircut, and I'm reading Basketball Digest, and Dr. J is on the cover of Basketball Digest, and so I'm looking. I'm reading. I'm so busy into this thing, and the dude comes in. He sits down in the chair, and I look up, and I'm like, damn, like that looks like, no. And so then I take the magazine, I close it, and I look at it, and I look at him, and I'm looking down, and I look at him, and he just starts laughing. And he's like, yeah, it's me.
Wow.
And I was like,
that's a
wow,
commercial
like,
right there.
Yeah, dude, like, it was like, that is probably one of the greatest moments of my life, was meeting him for the first time. Like,
wow.
It was like, and he was all arms and legs. Like, he was sitting in this chair. His knees were up, like, to his face. His hands were, he was just like, it was like he was larger than life. But he was so eloquent, and he was so
yes.
cool, and he, know, he talked to everyone, and he signed autographs, and he did all of this stuff. And I was like, man, like, yeah, that's my guy. Like that, yeah, I want to be like him. And then it was, like you said, that sense of style, and seeing when he went to the game, he was in suits and ties and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, these were the guys that I patterned myself after. I grew up around, I was able to see it. And then once I got to know him, I got to see it up close. And he was always like a big on presentation, and, how he presented himself and how he was seen in public. Well, that made an impression on me, because I was like, look, that's how I want to be seen. Like, I want to be seen as respectable and seen as a gentleman. And seeing that, and then even with my father, and those two things sitting in front of me on a regular basis, it molded me into who I am now. Yeah. And so I try to pass those same things on to my sons and, other guys, kids that I know, my nephews and things of that nature. Because for me, that was the right way. Like, that was just what it was. And so, I still live by those mantras. I still carry myself in those ways. Like, you will always look at me. I will always want to be considered a gentleman. Like, that's just what it is.
That's why I live my life. Those people who had impacts in your life, forget them. Mm-hmm. So for me to, be able to sit and talk to Dr. J, right, before I leave this earth in some way, it would just come full circle, because I watched everything, every interview, commercial, and it wasn't just, I was fanned out already, but I was watching how he conducted himself, how he walked, how he, carried his long coat on his arm, right? It was just a certain way. It's like, okay, pointing on 1, 2, don't be an asshole. Make sure you don't get in trouble. Make sure you don't get locked up and be, in the part of the system, right? This is the guy who you can model yourself after. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, my guy who runs the Hoop Post, you know who's that? He's on IG?
Yeah, I got him. Uh-huh.
He says, he DMs me, he's like, yo, I see you interviewing John tonight. Tell him I said, what's up? He's out here in Arizona with me.
Tell him what's up.
And he's
tell him to hit me up, because
New York City hoop enthusiast.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute. Like, it's, like I said, it's just crazy how we're all connected. Like, we all came up especially during that era, and we've all crossed paths whether we knew it or not. And now we can look back on it, and it's like, man, like, yo, like, I remember these moments. Like, you remember certain things, and it's like we were all in the same place at the same time. And the New York basketball scene for a while was it. Like, let's just keep it 100. There was a time that it was like, it was all about NYC basketball, period. Like, that's where the players were coming out of. That's where the competition was. If you wanted to prove how good you was, you had to come to New York. Like, that's just what it was. And we were blessed that we came up in that era, and we got to see it. We got to live it, and experience it. It was like nothing else. Like, the scene now it's not even close to what we came up with.
Listen, I tell you, you know, I get DMs all the time, like, you know, why don't you interview the young guys and this and that, and you know, no knock to the younger guys, right?
Right, right.
But there's so much history,
Mm-hmm.
right, that I didn't want to miss out on, and guys who have real stories. Now, if I interview a high school guy, that I'd have been getting ready for bed right now because the interview would have been over. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so,
exactly.
But also, I realized, me being a grown man, former history teacher, that one day somebody gonna write these stories,
right,
and they're gonna get a lot of things wrong.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'd rather the guys tell their own story, and the women tell their own
Absolutely.
stories, right?
Absolutely.
I interviewed Gary Irvin. I put some up on my page, and he hit me. He was like, "Yo, G, where you get the information at? They got it wrong." I said, "Yo, I got it from the overseas team that you played on.
Right, right.
Numbers all off. Wrong, just told me." And then he said me what he really did, and I was like, "See, this is why it's important that you tell your story."
Yeah, it is, man, because, you know, and you know, especially when you have these conversations with people, you have these conversations and you know who was in it and who wasn't, just by the names that are being dropped, and by, you know, people talking about certain events, so like, you know who was in it and who wasn't.
That's right. That's right.
And if they, you know, you hear, because I know, because I've talked to some people and they're like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "Bro, you wasn't there, because that's not what happened." Like, I was there. I know what happened. I was there the day Skip, you know, had the ball up when Conrad was getting ready to dunk on it, but not knock him in the next week, and he turned his hand and the ball went behind his neck and he dished it off to my man for the. I was there for that. Like, those are things that if you ain't there or you don't know nothing about that, you can't speak on that stuff. You can't speak secondhand, because there was stuff that happened that we know about that nobody knows about unless you was in that circle, or you were running with those people. Like, that's just what it is. That's just the facts.
Well, I had one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna mention the guy's name. This is early on when I first started the show. He came on the show, and he said he played at Paul Robeson.
Okay.
So a whole bunch of guys from Paul Robeson jumped on here, and it was like, "I don't know, dude."
Mm-hmm.
It's like he played JV. They was like, "All right, who's the JV coach?" And he was like, "I don't remember the guy's name." Like, you remember your coach name.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing you remember.
You gonna remember.
You remember your coach name. You probably not remember the assistant coach name,
but you gonna remember the coach name.
You gonna remember the head coach name.
Exactly.
So that didn't go too well, and he kind of exposed himself. So I had to kind of
you just listen. You see DC up here. DC can verify everything I said. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't.
Yo, fam, I don't believe DC. All my conversation with you validates everything.
Exactly.
I already know.
It's already know. And that's
I can tell when it's authentic. It was early on, and I was giving the guy a shot because he knew some people that I know from LA, and I was like, "Come on, let's do it." Right.
Right.
But listen, you've been doing the Gentleman's Corner. I want to get into that, man. I just think what you're doing, man, is awesome, especially with the guests you have on. And look, a lot of times they say you can't have too much testosterone in the room, but you guys make it work. Okay?
Yeah, it's, the Gentleman's Corner came about literally from a conversation that my co-creator, Paul, he's on the show. He and I had a conversation one morning it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after a set of, D Nice was playing, and we ended up talking.
D-Nice, salute.
My man Derek. So Derek, Derek helped. Listen, Derek was the center of all of this.
Okay.
Because without Derek and without him, doing Club Quarantine and spinning music, I don't meet none of these guys because we weren't traveling in the same circle.
Right.
And there's a lot, even people in here, like there's a lot of CQ people in here, and I don't meet any of these people without Derek in the club. So we ended up having a conversation one night, and it went to, like I said, we talked to probably about 3, 4 in the morning about, like, there was this communication gap between men and women. And we were just like, man, like, they have this perception of one thing, and you know, we're saying something different, and it was like all of this stuff going on. So we was like, man, what if we, you know, we just get on live, since we can't go nowhere. Let's get on live. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about some of these things, and let's kind of see, you know, see what happens. And so and he'll tell you, I thought that, I was like, look, man, if we get 5 people, that's going to be a lot. And the first night, I think we ended up with over 100 people. And we ended up doing the show for maybe about 2 hours. And it was just like, okay, people really, like, they sound like they really want to hear what we're talking about. And so we continue to do it, and the show continued to grow. And so, you know, we have topics, and people were sending us topics, and these were conversations that needed to be had, you know, because especially in our community like this, the communication thing is really messed up right now. Yeah. Like, it's really jacked up. And we was just like, we have to talk. Like, they're assuming things, we're assuming things, and nobody's talking. And so we're like way, way apart. So we need to try to close this gap between these two, you know, the men and the women. And women need to hear from a male perspective what men are thinking. Because as a woman, you can't tell me what a man's thinking, because you ain't a man. So we need to have these conversations. You need to hear from us. So this is how this all transpired. And to say that if I sit here and tell you that I would think a year later that we would be doing this, I'd be lying. Because I figured we would do this for a month or two, and you know, things would go back to normal, and we go back about our business, and that's just what it was going to be. But it has turned into its own thing. Like, we have a built-in audience that comes in every week, no matter what, to support. They show us love. They send us topics and conversation. Like, it has been an amazing journey. Like, I can't sit here and lie, because for me, this was not my lane. Like, I've always, and Pat will tell you, I've always been the in the cut dude. I've always been the dude sitting in the back.
Here.
See?
Same here.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be on the front. I'm cool being in the back, and it's cool. Like, I know folks, and it's all great. But I'm gonna be back here, and I'm chilling. So while y'all partying and y'all doing your thing, and I'm in the same party, but I'm in the back, and I'm cool with that. And that was what my thing was, because I actually tried to pull off of the show, and I was like, look, now that y'all are rolling, y'all do the show, and then, you know, you can call me on every once in a while, and I'll pop up. And then but there's like, no, we can't do that. Like, you got to be a part of this. So I've had to step out of my comfort zone to do something that I've never done before. And like I said, it's been an amazing experience. I'm not going to say I met some amazing people. A lot of them are in here today. But it's been a great journey. And it's never been about being famous or being known or anything like that. It's just been about giving back and helping people. And so when I get DMs from people, or, you know, phone calls from people saying, hey, you know, you helped me through this, or what you said resonated, then it makes it worth the while for me. Like, that's what we do it for. So it's been a great thing. Like, we're starting to see there's a bigger picture, it looks like. And so we're starting to see things a little bit differently with certain things. But I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the back and forth with people. I enjoy talking to my guys. We all have different points of view. So it's like, you know, I always tell people this, and I've said this, especially the last couple of weeks, is that even people you disagree with, yes, you should take something from that conversation. Mm-hmm. You should take something from every conversation, every interaction that you have with people. You should be able to take something from that and be like, hey, you know what? I learned something today. And that's the whole purpose of the Gentleman's Corner, is we want you to take something from it every day. So every time we have a show, we want you to be able, when it's over, to be like, man, you know, I learned something today. I took something from that. And that's it.
Listen,
that's
my brother, listen, I see TV show in the future for you, man, for you and your guys. Listen, let me tell you the things that just come so naturally. Two of my best friends been telling me for a couple of years, yo, you start a basketball show. And I was like, no, well, I'm gonna do it. I'm not, please.
Right.
And during the pandemic, another one of my friends, it's an editor over at NBC, he was just like, yo, G, you should start a basketball show. And I'm like, ain't none of these guys are in conversation with each other.
Right.
Again, I'm in the cut like you. I don't want to be all in front of the camera and things like that. And a year and a half later, look what both of us doing.
Exactly.
And again, I think sometimes the calling from the Most High put you in that position, knowing this is what you're supposed to be doing.
What you're supposed to be doing, yeah. I agree with you 100%. Like because if the pandemic doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. Neither one of us are in front of the camera. Like
not at all.
We ain't doing this. Ain't our thing. We not built like that.
Listen,
so,
Derek Chivas sent me a DM the other day.
My man.
Now, D was my roommate at Empire State game.
Was he?
Every now and again, I would send him a message, you know.
Right.
But he said, send me a couple of the shows. I want to check it out because everybody trying to, you know, get me on their show or whatever, TV or whatever, and everybody with the shenanigans. And he sent me back a DM, and it meant so much to me that you know that you're doing the right thing when a guy like that says it's authentic and it's just about pure basketball and not about the hype or the rumors. I had guys on my show who been in trouble before or had some scandal. I don't care about that.
No.
Because, you know, me watching Lamar Odom on Drink Champs and seeing that situation and how it went. Salute to Nori and Drink Champs.
Oh, yeah.
My
No
favorite
doubt.
show.
I love that show.
But I think we, New York City basketball players needed a safe space.
Yeah.
Like your show. Men need a safe space where they can talk and be themselves and give us information. Who else better to do it than you?
And that's what it is, man. Like I said, it's definitely something that, like I said, I would have never thought of this on my own. And it is. It's meant to be. It's meant to be a safe space. It's meant to be a non-judgment space. And even with you, like I literally, Pat hit me up. Like I said, we reconnected on Facebook, and he was like, man, I can't message you. We got to talk. So we talked on the phone for like 3 hours and reminiscing about, you know, when we were up in Syracuse and the stuff that we did together. And he was just like, yo, so like, we got to catch up. And so we were actually supposed to catch up before the pandemic came. Because he's like, I'm in LA. He's like, yo, you like an hour away. I'm like, yeah, I come to LA all the time. I'm going to hit you up. We're going to catch up. And then the pandemic hit. And so he hits me up one day and he's like, yo, he's like, I see you on IG. He was like, yo, my man Pooh got a show on IG. Like, you should check it out. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I go. And when I came in and saw, you know, dudes you was talking to, I'm like, I remember, dude. Like, I remember. It brought back a lot of memories that I'm like, man, like, yeah, I remember that. Like, I remember when that happened, or I remember this game, or I remember whatever. And I was like, yo, I'm in. Like, he got me. Like, we cool. So that's why when you hit me up and you was like, yo, I want you to come through, I was like, yo, no doubt. Like, because I love the show. I love the fact that you put yourself out there, that you are real about it. Like I said, we got stories to tell that nobody know about with some of these dudes.
Yo, bro, I was bringing you on just for the simple fact you ran the gentleman's club. Once you said you played ball, I was like, oh, we on it cracking. I said we on it cracking now. You know?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
We talking, and you like, yeah, me and Pat Alphonse with the camp together. I said, damn, you know Pat Alphonse? I said, oh, this is for real.
That's my
like,
dude,
I
man.
get excited when I don't know you play ball and find out you play ball.
It's a whole different thing.
It's a whole
and that's
different
why like
game.
It was like, so when he told me that and he was like, yo, check my dude out, I was like, yo, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, hearing you talk and hearing the stories that you tell and things like that, it was like, yo, like, yeah, he was back there when we was doing our thing. Like, he gets it and it's authentic. Like, this ain't fluff. This ain't, you listen, even with the dudes that come on here, listen, I ain't throwing you no Powerpuff Cup questions. I'm gonna ask you some hard shit. Like, we gonna get to the nitty gritty. And I love that. So it's like, you can't front on this show. And because people will pull your cards, because even in the comments, I've been there and people like, bro, yeah, that's not how that went down. Like, seriously. So
let me tell you,
like,
bro, you're a whole different breed. Because before I can ask you who asked you, Buzz, you told me you bust King Rice's ass. You did that before the question. So I'm like, yo, he's a ball player for real. Like, only real ball players gonna admit to some real like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
listen, I keep it 100. I'm like, yo, man, like, and that's my thing. I think, and that's what I think people love about you, and especially the basketball heads. What they love about you is you keep it real. You're authentic. You who you are, and that you're not, you're not on here for likes. You're not on here trying to make everybody happy. You like, yo, this is who I am. This is what it is. And if you don't like it, you can click the X and you can keep it pushing. But this where we at. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, and the fact that we run in the same circle, we ran in the same circles, it makes it even better. Because like I said, Pat's my dude. Like, Pat's been my dude for a long time. And Pat know everybody. So he's like, yo, check my guy out. And I was like, I got you. We got this. Not a problem.
man, do you have any plans of taking the show off IG? Like, the future plans? What do you see the Gentleman's Corner in the next few years? We
actually are working on moving to different platforms. Like, people, we've talked to some folks, and people have told us that it needs to be on different platforms. So we're looking at different things. I ain't gonna put it out there right now because we're talking to people and stuff, but it is something that we're looking at. And it was funny because we had somebody we were working with previously, and she kind of saw what we had, and she knew what it was. I think the problem was she was just moving too fast, and we weren't ready to see what she saw. And now we see it. Like, we see what she sees, and it's like, okay, yeah, this can be something different. And so these things are coming at us. So you have to kind of, sort through it. You have to be patient, and you can't jump at the first thing that comes out. It's just like the shot. You don't take the first shot you get. You swing the ball around a couple of times.
Swing the ball around.
You get open, and then you take a better shot. So we swinging the ball around right now. So we talking, we listening to stuff, and hopefully going into 2022, there will be some changes, and we will be on some different platforms, and there'll be some different stuff happening. So it's all a growing process. Like, this is all new to us. This is all new to, especially even with yourself. Like, we never imagined being like, hey, I'm gonna have a show on, the IG. That was never the case. So you're figuring it out as you go along. And there's like everything else. There's pitfalls. There's things you have to be careful of. You have to figure out to make sure that it works for you. So whatever situation we go into, it needs to be something that's going to work for us. But it's coming. Like, and I'm patient. I got the patience of Job. So I will sit and wait till the right thing comes along for us, and we will make and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're gonna move. So we'll see what happens.
I see that. I definitely see that in your plans. With all that's going on, man, what do you do to stay healthy these days, my brother?
Bro, listen, I ain't even gonna front. I slacked. It was a good pandemic 20. It might have been more than that. I can't listen, bro. I can't even front. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to you and be like, listen. It was a pandemic 20. It might have even been more than that. But I started working out again. I'm back. I'm back in the gym next week. Just getting the cardio up and doing stuff. Because I have to stay healthy to take care of my people. So if I'm not healthy and I'm not taking care of myself, then I'm not doing anybody any good. So I'll get back, to the treadmill and the Stairmaster and all that stuff, and eating a little bit cleaner and keeping my drink until the weekends and things of that nature. Things of that nature. My wife is over there.
Somebody said,
my wife over here clowning.
I got a question.
Listen, this ain't your show. No, this is not your show.
I know, but I got
you ain't supposed to be here. No, you ain't got no question. Bye. I'll see you later. We're not trying to do that right now.
It's not nothing perverted.
That's the divine feminine. We gotta let her say her piece, man. I'm good.
You don't know her very well. You gonna get to know her, but you don't know her very well.
It's a question for you, bro.
Yes.
No disrespect to my husband. I love my husband, but I got a text. They want to know, are you single?
See, you see this? You see this? You see this? You see what I'm talking about?
Oh, we from the answer? You cheat, man. Look at that smile. That teeth just white.
Well, just know, right? So
okay.
But look, here's the deal, man. I like thank you for the question. I appreciate it, and for everybody. I saw the question earlier, but you know.
See?
Oh, and you saw when I
that
deleted it.
earlier.
See?
You know, when you used to talk to reporters, you know what questions not to answer in front of everybody, right? For sure. But I like to ask that, man, because, you know, as black men, man, we got to make sure that we take care of our health. You know,
absolutely.
We got a lot of things coming after us, man, and it's good that.
Did you really
know
not
that
just answer my question?
He's not answering. He
we're taking care of each other.
Dude, I'm following you now. Don't let me blast you.
She from Brooklyn, so you know what you're dealing with.
Brooklyn, stand up, stand up. Yes.
Yeah, what?
No kids.
Get out of here, man. Go on about your business. That's it. Just
business.
like, yeah.
Fully employed. Yes, I'm good. Thank you. I love the love. I love the love. It's good. It's good.
There you go.
Listen,
no,
I know another thing that your platform can do can be the training grounds for men having difficulty growing up into real manhood. See, it's a difference, right?
Yeah.
A lot of dudes saying they grown, right? But it's the difference of being a real man, right? It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it is. And I think for us, that's the big thing, especially, you know, with myself having a teenage son, is that I want to teach him to be, you know, be a man. I want to teach him to be the head of his household, you know, to break some of these generational curses, because you know, we've grown up in a way that we realized there were certain things that were just not right. And you realize now that you're older, you're like, okay, that's not how that was supposed to be. So we have to change that. So my thing is, especially with mentoring some of these younger guys and talking to some of these younger guys, is to say, look, this is how this should be done. This is the way that this should go. You know what I'm saying? So it is a great platform for, I mean, that's the big thing. It's not just about the dialogue between men and women. It's also as men leading your household and, you know, teaching the next generation, you know, what they should be doing and the standards that they should have for themselves and things of that nature. Because, and you know this because you grew up around the same time I did, is that the one thing that we had coming up was that village mentality. Yes. And that everybody raised you in the neighborhood. It wasn't just your parents. The neighborhood
you don't curse in front of the old woman who lived next door.
And no, you don't.
Or you walk past the women, you lower your voice, and you let them by, and you say, excuse me.
Exactly.
You hold the door open.
Away from that. We've gotten away from that. And so we as a community and as a whole, we have to get back to that. Because that was when we were at our best, was when we were being raised as a community. And so the Gentleman's Corner is kind of a little small sliver of that, of the community and wanting to help the community and you know, raising these people and raising these sons and daughters and saying, look, this is where you come from, and this is, you know, what you should do, and this is how you need to carry yourself. That's what this platform, and that's what we're using this platform for. It's not, like I said, it's not about getting famous. It's not about the likes and the follows. It's just a good friend of mine, and she does lives and stuff. Tracy was like, look, if you take the knowledge that you have with you and you don't share it, you're being selfish. And it took me a minute to understand that. And then it was like, when it hit, I was like, man, you know, she's right. Because if I take it with me and I don't share it, what good is it doing? So this is why we do what we do. And it's like, even like you, this is why you do what you do, because these younger kids don't understand like where we came up and the way that the ball scene was when we came up, and they need to know, like, it's a part of history. You need to know what your history is for you to move forward.
And that's what we're trying to do, brother. And You know, you got guys like New York Prospect who focus on the high school kids, which I think is awesome because, you know, the newspapers don't write about the kids no more. You can't find their name in the newspaper like we used to have our name in the newspaper, right? It's a whole different ball game now.
Whole different ball game. Yeah, you know, it's different.
So I think they both platforms serve a purpose.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right? Like both platforms serve a purpose. And what you're doing, similar, kind of started out around the same time. Play ball, mentoring program, own business. Same here. I have a mentor program called the Spear of Influence, right? I run out of my high school. But if we don't pass the knowledge down to the next generation, we can't expect nobody else to do it.
No, we can't. That's just what it is. And it is, we have to stop thinking somebody's coming to save us. We got to save ourselves. That's what it is. And we got to reach back and we got to help. Like, that's just the bottom line. That's what all of this, like, I just want to make this place a better place than it was when I left it. And if I can help one person or help a couple of people, then I've done, you know, I've done what I need to do. But that's what all of this is about. So, like I said, even for myself, all of this is a new lane. Opening myself up to people and sharing my experiences and stuff is new because I'm very private. Like, a lot of people don't know that I play ball. They don't know the depth of dudes that I play because I don't talk about it. It's not something that, you know, I did this, I did that. I just don't. But it's a part of who I am. It's a part of what made me who I am. You know, ball was a big part of my life from grade school all the way up through college. And some of the lessons I learned from playing ball, I've put into life and transitioned that into life. You know, so it's all relevant.
Listen, I never judge a dude and look at him and say he can play ball because I thought Method Man could play ball, and I saw him play ball, and I was like, no, let me tell you. Yeah, I love Meth. Meth is my god. But it's just like, word? You can't play ball.
Meth is like 6'5". People don't realize how tall Meth is. Meth is like 6'5".
Oh, man, he's so trash, yo. And he left-handed, he got the crazy shot. And it's just like, I'm never going to do that again. Like, sometimes the eye test just don't work.
It don't work, man. It don't work. It's like, just because you tall don't mean you can play.
Not at all, man. But you was definitely a pleasure, brother. But we're not finished yet because now we get into the top five. Let's do it. Okay.
Of all time?
We're not, brother, let me run this, all right?
Okay. I got you.
First of all, I'm trying to hit my guy up, Jamel Powell, my artist, because he has your picture.
Okay.
Oh, you got a picture. You got a picture coming, fam. You got a nice portrait coming.
I appreciate it. All right.
Have you seen some of his artwork?
No, I need to see it. I need to look it up. Send me his joint.
Hold on. Wait, no. I got some right here. Right? So Shamik Cook got his, and I'm waiting for Omar Cook to get back from overseas because we did his. Right?
Oh man, okay. Yo, that is Omar.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
This is Division II scorer, Lambershell, number Division II, leading scorer of the nation.
Okay.
This is my guy, Jamel Powell.
Okay.
Right? And this is J.C. Mathis. He played for Michigan from New York.
I remember, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah. And he got you looking nice and smooth and all that. So something that we added to the show just to make sure that our guests have something memorable to remember basketball heads.
I appreciate it, bro.
On the show. So you definitely got that coming, bro.
Absolutely.
And I'll send that to you. But
cool.
I want to talk about the top 5 players from Freeport. You've been out there long enough. You know. Who's the top 5? You named a couple already.
All right. So my cousin Eugene Fuller at point.
There you go.
Jonesy at 2. I'm gonna go E Coates at 3 at small forward. I'm gonna go with Fred Hollingsworth at center. And even though he was on the small side, I'm gonna go with Louis Anderson at the power forward because Louis can get up. So that would be my top 5 on Freeport.
Okay. All right. Top 5 ball players you played against.
Ooh.
DC being one of them, and you played with him. So.
I can name his whole crew. I'd be like, that's the top 5 because them dudes was no joke. But yeah, all right. So I'll go DC, Rod Strickland, Kenny Smith.
Dang.
You know, and
y'all hear these names? Yo, y'all better get on John and tell him he better tell y'all more about this ball.
Yeah, listen. And you know what? And just because of his defensive prowess, I gotta go Conrad McRae.
Conrad was such a beast. Rest his soul.
Bro, yes, man. Like
he was a beast on the court and a gentle giant off the court.
He was the nicest dude in the world. Like he was so cool. Like like I said, me and Rad, like it was always love. Like it really was. Like it was always love. But he would on the court. He's trying to throw your shot outside the gym.
Oh yeah. He's a beast. He was McNasty. He was
McNasty for real. He was McNasty for real. So, all right. So we're gonna go Strickland, DC, Conrad, Kenny Smith.
And you got Ernest Lee on there, unless you got somebody better than him.
Yeah, well, no, I'm gonna go with him because that was a monster. So we're gonna go with him.
Okay. Top 5 basketball movies of all time.
Oh man, see there you go. Oh man, okay, top 5. He Got Game.
Okay.
Love and Basketball.
Nice.
God. No stuff. Hoop Dreams. Whole nother thing. Kobe Bryant's Muse.
Oh, nice.
I'll go with that. And
somebody said Above the Rim. I was in that movie.
Yeah, you know what? Above the Rim, especially for our time, like that kind of put the thing on the street ball thing. So we'll put that on as the 5th.
Let me tell you, it was winter time when we shot that.
Yeah, it was cold as hell. They tried to get me out there. I was like, bro,
as hell.
I'm good. I was like, nah, I'm good. I ain't going out there.
I do not have a talking scene, so y'all expect me to be talking. I was on the purple team. I got like 2 walk-bys, though. You can definitely see me. You know, that was it. You know, that was it, so I'm not going to go there.
Listen, you got your SAG card. That's all that counts.
You know what? I didn't get my damn SAG card.
Are you serious?
Let me tell you something, brother. I slipped up so much. And I think because a lot was going on during that time, but I was in Above the Rim. I was in a Michael Jackson video. I was in the SWV video. Remember they had the guys in the locker room? Like,
yeah. I
was in a whole bunch of, it's just like.
Bro, you should have got your SAG card by that with all that.
Let me tell you, bro. Once I knew about it, it was already I'm in Jersey living a different life. Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy. People get on me all the time, be like, for real? Like,
yeah, like you.
It's crazy. Listen, and the Michael Jackson videos, they don't really care about us. The prison one, the prison version.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right, last one, brother.
All right.
We both grew up during the era of hip hop. That became our music.
Okay.
Right? I want to know, who are your top 5 MCs of all time?
Man. All right, top 5. I'm going to go with Chuck D.
Chuck D.
Because that's my brother. Like, we grew up. He's like my big brother. So I'm going with Chuck. Rakim. Because Rakim changed the whole.
Brother, you can just keep it all Long Island and all of them will fist you.
I got some dudes. Like, he changed everything. Rakim changed everything.
He changed everything. You know, listen, when he first did My Melody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marley Marl and MC Sham was laughing at him because he was rhyming so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Marley did the beat, but they would just sit back, or I guess he engineered or whatever. But they were laughing because it was just so slow. And they didn't realize what he was doing. And he was changing the game.
He changed the whole game. Like, he's probably, I will say, he's going to be my number one because of the fact that he changed the game. And because of the fact that when he came out and that album came out, everybody had to shift. And it was like, yo, like, this dude is doing something completely different and it sounds good. So it's like, and he's, and he's not cursing and he's using all of these lyrics and all these metaphors and all of this stuff. And it's like, bruh, like, he was on his level.
He cursed one time.
That's it.
It was on Mahogany.
That's it. That's the only time.
The show. He never cursed. How you that nice? He never cursed.
That was the whole thing. Is like you listen to what he said and the way that he
hung out with all the gangsters and drug dealers on the back of your album cover.
Thank you.
But you never had to curse.
You ain't cursing. So for me, like, if you're talking about, he's definitely my top. He's the guy that changed everything for me. But it would be him. It'll be Chuck. It'll be KRS-One.
KRS-One.
I would put Nas up there because Nas was that dude. Like,
yes, of course. Nas is what Rakim is.
Yeah, he was. He was like he was Rakim 2.0. Like,
yeah. That
was some whole other thing. And even though he only had 2 albums, I gotta put Biggie up there because there's just I can't even imagine where he would be without, if he wasn't here. Like, I can't even imagine what it would be like because he was so far ahead of his time too. And there's so many guys that you can put, like, that top 5. Like, I see people in here, like, you can put, Kane. Kane, another one of my favorite dudes. Like,
let me tell you,
man.
So, I lived a lot of lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the intro song that I played, that's me. That's a song I did like 15, 20. It's going on 20 years. Big Daddy Kane, man, who you see is who he is.
Yeah.
There's no different persona. Like, this dude is so authentic and so humble. He's a dude, when we want to listen to the new music, he listened to the old 60s to 70s music.
Exactly.
Blaxploitation movies. Same thing Jay-Z said, like, all of those things. And he was another guy, even though we're around the same age, that, I took some things from just his character-wise and how cool he was.
Because of the way he carried himself, like, he carried himself so regally, like, royal, like, he was just like, yo, like, I'm that dude. And he was, and if you think about it too, he was one of the first rappers that actually put on a show. Like, it wasn't just him running around the stage and doing his thing. Like, they had the dancing and he had all of the sets and he had all the stuff. And it was just like, yo, like, this dude gets it. Like, he really understands how this is supposed to work. And even now, when you go see Kane in a show, Kane is going to put on a show.
And you get hear every word. I know you guys heard it on the verses.
You watched the verses, right?
Every word.
For him to go on that verses with KRS-One and still be able to spit those lyrics the same way that he did 30 some odd years ago with the breath control and all of that, bruh, you can't, there's nothing you could say about that dude. Legendary that doesn't even cover it because we've seen dudes get on the stage huffing and puffing trying to get their stuff out. And
you see these young guys don't even sing all the lyrics. They let the crowd sing it.
Exactly. And to hear him articulate that stuff And especially when he's rapping fast, and you're just like, dude, like you can hear everything that this dude is saying. You can understand everything that this dude is saying. That is a gift. Like that is truly a gift. And Kane, Kane would be right outside the top. Like I would listen, if I could, I would put him at like 5A, like literally.
Let me tell you, this guy went from me having his pictures on my wall in college to us becoming really good friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is so crazy. My guy Ballhead is on here, you see.
Yeah,
We're talking about another close friend. It was a time when, you know, he wasn't as revered as he was. And we was around him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we used to tell him, later on, they're going to celebrate you, fam.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then the hip-hop artists, all these things started coming around.
Right.
And, you know, I could go on for days, man. He just gave me the biggest props when he go on these different programs and he mentions that time in his life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Listen, man, Kane was
circle,
man. Yeah, Kane was a game changer too. He was definitely, when he came around, dudes had to step up because he was bringing something different to the game. He was bringing lyrics. He was, you know, the way he was putting together sentences, the way he was performing. All of these guys was like, man, like this dude, I'm not trying to go on after this dude.
And the girl liked him.
Yeah, that's
that
the
was
thing.
The difference. The dudes wanted to be like him, and the girls loved him.
That's what it was. It was like, yo, he had, like I said, he had it covered. Like people, and because we were in it, we didn't understand it. But now when you look back on it, you're like, man, yo, Kane was that dude. Like he was just that dude, and he still is. Like you still, like I said, when I saw him on Versus and seeing him perform the same way that he did when I saw him at the Apollo, I'm like, bruh, okay, I see you. Like I see you. They ain't nothing else to be said.
Man,
just not.
Listen, brother. You have covered. And look, I'm gonna be honest with you. When we first scheduled this, I said, yeah. Because in my mind, I can kind of time how it's going to be, right?
Right.
Usually when I go 2 hours, it's usually a guy who played in the NBA and all-star and somebody, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Bruh. This is how real it is, man. And I'm glad we connected. And I don't want this to be the last time we communicate. So,
oh no, bro, listen, my phone is open to you. Like I said, you know, whenever you want me to come through, let me know and I'm coming through. Like that's real talk. Like I truly enjoy this. I truly enjoy the conversation, and we got a lot more to talk about. So whenever you want me to come through, let me know. I'm here for you.
For sure. And maybe I can I'll talk to you off here because I know your program.
We can.
I know some people. We know some people.
We got some stuff because we need to talk because 2022 we got some different stuff coming on. So me and you need to have a conversation. So. We definitely gonna make that happen for sure.
I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. I
appreciate you too, bro. Absolutely, bro. Love you.
Love you too, man.
I'll talk to you soon, man.
Tell the wife I said thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Listen, I'm gonna try to keep her off camera next time. That's a whole nother story.
right. But we definitely got respect the divine feminine. So salute to the women that was on here too. Thank you.
No doubt, bro.
Peace, brother.
Peace, brother. Peace.
All right.
All right.
Wow, man. Listen, the greatest thing about having a show, let's just say one of the greatest things is connecting with somebody who you know that lived the same life as you. Again, people go on different paths, but when you can share these stories, this rich history of New York basketball, we talking about all 5 boroughs, Long Island, and even upstate, the whole New York State. And we so good, people just mention New York City because that's how good we are. But we got more ballers out there. And as you can see, my guy John was one of them. And he made me so happy when he told me he bust King Rice's ass. For sure. So to everybody out there, and all my basketball heads, I want to say thank you for joining. It's 10:15, baby. It's that time. Y'all stay safe, stay blessed, because we are the official home for New York City basketball. Peace.